locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Only show that matters. That's right, folks. We are back. I am your man, the Duke, and welcome to Duke Loves Rasslin. I'm here with the producer extraordinaire, the Boston bad boy, Iron Mike Pelosi. We're at our fantastic secret location. I'm sure you'll notice that the name of the show has changed. Folks, you've been sending me messages to Facebook and Twitter at Duke Loves Rasslin, Rasslin. You've been saying, Duke, what is this rundown stuff? Why don't you just name the show Duke Loves Rasslin? So you know what, folks? You request it, we deliver it. This is the official name going forward. You got it, baby. We got a special show for you this evening. Oh, my goodness. We're talking about the 30-year pro wrestling veteran. He was a wrestler. Now he's a promoter. Steve Cox. That's right, folks. Steve Cox. He's going to be joining us this evening. We also have a fantastic special Q&A. You've been sending us questions for so long. We're going to answer some of those things. Going to have a good time there, folks. But before we get into any of that stuff, here are my not so random thoughts. We had a fantastic show last week, and when you get a chance, please head over to SoundCloud, type in Duke Loves Rasslin. Get a chance to listen to our two special guests, Chelsea, a.k.a. The Wrestling Femme, and WrestleZone.com's own Lavelle Porter. I mean, boy, they just did a fantastic job. First and foremost, you had Chelsea. She broke down the WWE draft, and she did so in such an informative manner. We just had a great response from the fans. They really appreciated that. In addition, she also told some great stories and provided some information about how it feels to be a female pro wrestling fan in the modern day. Fellas, let me tell you something. We really need to step up our game out there, okay? We have to respect the female pro wrestling fans because we could learn a lot from them. And I learned a lot just listening to Chelsea discuss what she goes through as a female pro wrestling fan and the sort of things that the treatment that they receive and what have you. If you haven't heard it yet, folks, you really have to go to the SoundCloud, tune in, check out last week's show. That was week 15. You don't want to miss it. We also had Lavelle Porter from WrestleZone.com, and he went over the Brock Lesnar controversy. Boy, it was informative. It was fantastic. He also spoke about the WWE announcers and how there was a shakeup as a result of the brand split in the draft. Lavelle Porter, you can check him out at WrestleZone.com. You can also check out Remember to Hit Record. That's his show with Old Man Wade and Miss Lady. It really feels good to have some folks who are involved in the wrestling industry, whether they're super fans like Chelsea or whether they are journalists like Lavelle, where we can tap into what they know. Because no matter what goes on, listen, I'm Duke and I love wrestling, but I don't have a monopoly on wrestling knowledge. So I got to reach out to somebody. Give me somebody here, Iron Mike Pelosi, who can give me some information so I stay informed. That's why I reach out to people like Chelsea, the Wrestling Femme. That's why I reach out to Lavelle Porter. So once again, folks, check out last week's show. You will love it. That's right. It's been an interesting week in the world of professional wrestling. I got to tell you, 4 solid days of nonstop quality wrestling action. I cannot recall a time in over, goodness, I'd have to go all the way back to 1984 to recall a period where I had 4 days of straight fantastic wrestling action. And you know what? We just had it this week. WWE in particular, they had the Battleground pay-per-view. Next night, they had the new and revamped Monday Night Raw. Then they had SmackDown Live. And then they had NXT in the Cruiserweight Classic. I mean, goodness, it was just action upon action upon action upon action. Couldn't contain myself. Battleground was a great pay-per-view. Folks took a lot of risks, but it was worth it. We got to see two guys who really stole the show in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I mean, we really have to give them a round of applause. Those guys stole the show. They were fantastic. Their feud is over a decade old, and it's still going strong. We loved it. The night ended with that Dean Ambrose. I can't stand Dean Ambrose. I can't stand him. But he retained his WWE Championship, and he's taking it home to SmackDown. He retained it by beating Seth Rollins and Roman the Cheater Reigns. That's right. Roman Reigns, who was suspended for violating the WWE wellness policy. He was doing some kind of something that he shouldn't have been doing. Thank goodness he lost the match. He showed up with a beard. He showed up with a bad attitude, and it was great that he lost. It's terrible that it had to be that ridiculous Dean Ambrose who beat him, but it was a good match. And you know what? I don't want Roman Reigns to ever win again, so I was happy about that. Then we go to Monday Night Raw, which was completely revamped, folks. I mean, first and foremost, they had the announcers. They put them towards the back of the arena, which was fantastic. Then they changed the camera views, so the feel of the show was different, okay? Finn Balor made his debut. And let me tell you something. He didn't do a bunch of flippy moves either, okay? He told a story in the ring. They had a tournament to crown who would be the number one contender to take on Seth Rollins, who was already one of the number one contenders for the newly crowned, get this, Universal Heavyweight Championship. That's what Raw is going to call their main championship. Universal Heavyweight Championship. Finn Balor ended up winning the tournament. So he and Rollins are going to battle for that championship, which is just unbelievable. It's fantastic. It's going to be the best match ever. Can't wait. But the night belonged to the ladies. We're talking about Charlotte putting up the WWE Women's Championship against the boss, Sasha Banks, Snoop Dogg's cousin. The woman who was born in California, but she calls Boston her home. They had a knockdown, drag-out, stiff, bust-you-up kind of match. The fans were standing on their feet. There were people with tears in their eyes. Sasha Banks wins the Women's Championship. I mean, folks, I jumped out of my skin. I was so happy. It was just amazing. And shout out to Caitlin on Twitter. She's a huge Sasha Banks fan. She was at work. She stopped working and broke out in tears because she was so happy that Sasha Banks finally got what she deserved. She won the WWE Women's Championship. It was amazing, folks. It was amazing. So, can you imagine ending the night on such a high note? And then we go to Tuesday, which is SmackDown Live. How are you going to top that? Well, they had a battle royal, folks. They had a battle royal to determine who would be the number one contender for the WWE Championship held by that ridiculous Dean Ambrose. Who won the battle royal? Well, none other than Dolph Ziggler. Okay, that's right, folks. Dolph Ziggler won. Okay, listen, things are looking up for this guy. Seriously, I know that there's been a lot of starts and stops. At one point, he was dating that Amy Schumer. It seems like once he and Amy Schumer broke up, you know the comedian there. Once they broke up, Dolph Ziggler had a tough patch in his career. She must have cursed him or something. I don't know. But he's finally gotten over that curse, and he has a title match. It would be amazing to see Dolph Ziggler win the title once again. We'll have to wait, tune in, check it out. But boy, folks were ecstatic about that. I mean, they were just so happy to see Dolph Ziggler finally getting a push again. That was great. Then we transition into NXT on Wednesday. Oh, you have the NXT Women's Champion Asuka They need a number one contender for her, and we're still working towards that. But the big news was NXT heavyweight champion Samoa Joe. He's going to be taking on who I feel is the greatest wrestler in the world, Shinsuke Nakamura. Oh my goodness, folks. You talk about two of the stiffest, toughest, roughest wrestlers around. They finally determined that these two guys are on a collision course and they're going to meet head-to-head in the not-too-distant future. That was just amazing that they put that match together. Can't wait to see it. But wait, we're not done. You had the Cruiserweight Classic right after NXT, which there was a guy on the Cruiserweight Classic with the last name Bennett. I'm just going to let you folks know, no, I'm not related to this guy, okay? In fact, Chelsea, the wrestling femme, she sent me a message and said, hey, this Bennett guy, he's kind of weird, but I can't stop looking at him. There's something about him. And I'll tell you, there really is something about him. He was unbelievable until he injured his knee during the match. That was the tough part. He ended up losing the match, but the guy was pretty good out there. Bennett, if you're listening, reach out. You can hit me up at Duke Loves Rasslin on Twitter. I'd love to have you on the show. Let's talk about it, okay? Let's talk about how that knee is doing. Let's talk about how, despite your big high top and your light up glasses, whatever nonsense you were wearing there, you still put on a pretty good match there, sir. So let's get you on the show. But, while we're talking about nonsense, Drew Gulak, what was that jacket you were wearing? Some kind of samurai? I don't know what the heck you were wearing there, Drew Gulak. When the bell rang, you had a pretty good match, but, dude, drop the jacket, please. All right. The meat and potatoes of the Cruiserweight Classic on Wednesday night was Brian Kendrick. Brian Kendrick beat the living daylights out of some poor guy. He busted his mouth open. He put him in some kind of chokehold. It was the most brutal chokehold I've ever seen in a wrestling match. I mean, folks, there was no flippy moves going on there. It was just a straight beat down, okay? It was a straight beat. And Brian Kendrick, I mean, he's a veteran. We go all the way back to the first Ring of Honor show when he was still known as Spanky, and I watched him wrestle there. So for him, all these years later, it's been, about 14 years later, and Kendrick is beating up on the young guys now. That's a grizzled veteran if you've ever seen one. If you get a chance, head over to the WWE Network. Check out last night's edition of the Cruiserweight Classic just to see Brian Kendrick bust some young guy's mouth open and choke the living daylights out of him. There was something else, folks. So that was 4 straight days of non-stop fantastic action. Please keep it going because this is what the fans want to see. They want to get back into the sport. You're going to attract more eyes, more excitement. That's what we need. By the way, don't forget, TNA Impact has moved to Thursday nights, folks. They're on Pop Television. You got to support it. It's wrestling, okay? I know TNA has been a little shaky out there, but if you tune in and watch anything, you got to check out the knockouts. Got to check out the knockouts. Marty Bell, Jade, and my favorite, you know who I'm talking about, the TNA Knockouts champion, Sienna. She's unbelievable. You also have Matt Hardy doing his crazy gimmick there, which a lot of folks are talking about. Brother Nero. Yeah, he's going to delete you, whatever he talks about there. That's something interesting. Brock Lesnar. Yep. You didn't think I was going to talk about it, did you? We got an update on Brock Lesnar. As you know, he is suspected of failing not 1, but 2 USADA tests for banned substances. Okay, he competed at UFC 200. He beat the living daylight out of Mark Hunt, but then he tested positive for that banned substances there. The update on this is that UFC is not, I repeat, UFC is not going to take any money away from Lesnar. Don't ask me why, and that's much to the chagrin of Mark Hunt. The WWE has put out a statement that they are not planning on suspending Brock Lesnar for testing positive for banned substances during his UFC stint. They also pointed out that the WWE wellness policy does not extend. Now listen to this, folks. It does not extend to part-time wrestlers. So if you're working a full-time schedule, like a guy like Sami Zayn, you're going to get drug tested. But if you're working a part-time schedule like a guy like Brock Lesnar, they're not testing you. Now, folks, I love the WWE. I really do. But I got to tell you, I am disgusted. I am disgusted by the fact that they do not test part-timers. If you say you care about the talent, test everybody, okay? You just suspended Roman Reigns for testing, and you know I can't stand Roman Reigns, but you suspended him for testing positive. And that was fair. But you're not going to suspend Brock Lesnar for testing positive? Give me a break. Seriously, okay? Seriously. So that was the update there with the whole Brock Lesnar thing. Stay tuned, folks, because this has so many twists and turns. It's like a Coke bottle, I swear. I don't know what the heck's going on here. That's right.
All right, we're rolling.
Had a great time touching base with Middle Kingdom Wrestling China champion Dalton Bragg. Folks, Dalton and his lovely wife recently welcomed a baby into the world. I mean, what a just fantastic thing there. Dalton Bragg, he's been working very hard over there at MKW, and he wanted to let all of you fans know that he and his family are healthy, doing well, and they appreciate all of your support. Speaking of MKW, you got to check out MiddleKingdomWrestling.com. There you can check out all of Dalton Bragg's matches. You also will get information on the Super Show, a.k.a. WrestleStar 3. Now, that's coming up November 18th and November 19th. So this is a 2-day event, folks, in Bangkok, Thailand. Check out the website for more information on tickets and what have you. Adrian and the boys, they're combining with a few other wrestling promotions out there, and they're going to put on a show that's going to knock your socks off. And hopefully we'll see Dalton Bragg defend the MKW Heavyweight Championship there. We're going to jump from Asia all the way over to the United Kingdom. Revolution Pro Wrestling. They're the ones who are promoting this huge main event between the legendary Big Van Vader taking on that punk, Will Ospreay. You know, this disrespectful Will Ospreay, that young William there. Vader is going to teach him some manners, folks, and it's going to happen on August 12th. So it's coming right up there. And I can't wait, folks. It's going to be something else. It's going down in the historic York Hall in England. So check RevolutionProWrestling.com for ticket information, and hey, can't wait to see it. Now listen, if you can't make it to the United Kingdom, but you still want to see Vader in action, he'll be at the Top Rope Promotions event at Campanelli Stadium in Brockton, Massachusetts. That's coming up August 26th, folks. Now look, Campanelli Stadium, as most of you know, is where the Brockton Rocks, which is a minor league baseball team, that's where they play ball. They're one of the minor league teams for the Red Sox, if I'm not mistaken. So where they play, that's where you can check out this match. Head over to Facebook.com and just type in Top Rope Promotions. If you can't find them, just type in Duke Loves Rasslin. I'm going to have the flyer up so you folks can definitely get a chance to see Vader in action. And I believe they're going to be doing an autograph session as well, which would be pretty cool, you know. Up next, folks, I can't wait for this. We're going to be talking to none other than Steve Cox. Wow. But before we get into any of that, folks, we got to talk about Tavern Road. That's right, Tavern Road over at 343 Congress Street in Boston's Fort Point neighborhood. You know, I'm always talking about the fantastic food there and the excellent service that Chef Louis and his team provides. But what you really need to know about is that it is a great place to stop for a delicious drink. Okay? Tavern Road, they switch out their beer list on a routine basis. In addition, they provide some unbelievable cocktails, folks. And if you have somebody in your party who's not a big drinker, they also make mocktails. Now, Duke, what is a mocktail? Well, I'm glad you asked, Duke. A mocktail is a drink that has all the ingredients of a cocktail without the booze. So you can enjoy the fresh, muddled and squeezed juices and all this, the syrups and all these different fancy things that they do at a top-notch establishment like Tavern Road without the booze. So everybody can enjoy a delicious, refreshing summer drink, have a good time, grab a bite to eat, grab a piece of dessert, do whatever you want. But please, folks, I'm telling you, 343 Congress Street, head over to Tavern Road, tell Louie the Duke says hello. You'll thank me for it later.
You're locked in to Duke Loves Rasslin. Join Duke's Rasslin crew on Facebook for more exclusive content. Now, back to the show.
Boy, do we have a special surprise for you, okay? We are talking about the man who I used to rush home every day after school when I was a youngster, get my homework done just so I could park myself in front of that television and watch him take on the best of the best, because that's exactly what he was back then on ESPN. Okay, I'm talking about the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Cox. Steve, how you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing great. And thank you for the setup. And it's nice. Like I was telling you, the neat part where you're deep in the mix and you're actually doing the things that we were doing back in the day, you take it for granted. And now, like you say, the ESPN Classic, the WWE Network, all that kind of stuff, you get to live forever.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Stay young and pretty, and then when they see you now, it's like, damn, man. Shit, But I had a good time. I want everybody to know I had a great time on the road. So,
listen, how are you feeling today, physically? How are you holding up today?
Well, the nice part is I literally got my second hip. I kind of limped and gimped for about 5 or 6 years, put on a lot of weight. My hips are going bad, and I should have got them fixed, but just keep putting it off. And then a year ago, November, I got a hip. And then this past November, I got my second hip. It's not funny. The doctor's going, usually when you get one new hip, the other one goes out within a year. Well, I was just like, shit, hey, voodoo doctor. But anyway, I got my second hip, and now, it's nice. I'm 7 months in. And you know how guys are. We can be fat, bald, and stupid. Shit, we still think we got it going on.
I hear that. And let me tell you something. Especially you worked, brother. You worked. Let's start from the beginning of your career, Steve. Because, now, did you wrestle back in high school and college?
Well, yeah, that's what you said. I made sure my son would say, well, I was a football player that wrestled. And I was a really pretty good high school wrestler, heavyweight. I think I was like 23 or something like that. I wasn't in tournaments, but I was a really good wrestler. I was a two-time All-State linebacker, for a program out of Kansas, out in the middle of nowhere. And, but the feel was just, I could really play. And I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to the University of Tulsa.
Oh.
And played ball there. And out of 44 possible starts, I played 39 ball games.
You started in 39 games?
39 games.
Wow.
I was there my freshman year, though. And John Cooper was our coach. You might remember him. He ended up up at Ohio State. And Nolan Richardson was actually a basketball coach. We were talking about this. And between Nolan Richardson guys he was recruiting and John Cooper type guys he was recruiting, we all lived in a jock dorm. And it was crazy. I mean, it was like, but we didn't know it at the time. They just called us the Renegades. Even to this day, from the university, we were kind of known as just renegade, crazy-ass guys. But shit, we won. We competed. I mean, I'd be like Florida State. Hell, I was 3-0 in the Big 8 my senior year. We just lined up. We were ballers, just Cooper had a way of finding these 2 to 4 star kids, little town kids, but, just we're straight up ballers and hit the ground running. And from there, I got drafted by the New Jersey Generals, of all people.
Uh-oh.
This is when I first met Dr. Death, and it was kind of funny. I was hearing about this guy on a holding out.
Well, you said Dr. Death. Are you talking about the legendary wrestler Dr. Death, Steve Williams?
Yeah.
Wow.
This was tied back in with UWF when I broke in, but it was kind of funny when I signed with USFL. you'll get a kick out of this. I get like a $70,000 signing bonus, right?
Whoa.
A lot of money back then, right?
Whoa. What year is this? What year is this you're talking about, Steve?
What's that?
What year was that?
That is 1982, 83.
Wow.
So anyway, I walk into the bank, and I got on bib overalls, flip-flops, and a wife beater. And I give them a check, and actually the New Jersey Generals are owned by all the family that owns the Daily Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, and all this. But I said, I'd like to cash this check, and they're like, $3,000 in $100 bills. And I was a clueless one, and the guy looking at me like, fuck, I can't give you that like right now. Is this check even legit? And you can just tell, like, when you go to the bank and you hand them a check like that, and you're just like clueless wonder, they're like, how the hell did this kid make that kind of money? So I go to camp, nobody's there, and the only people that are covering us is a little bullshit station that's coming on board called ESPN. Swear to God. That's the first time I ever heard of it. And we're all sitting around now, who the fuck gonna watch sports 24 hours a day, right? So anyway, nobody there but who's that, Berman and the other guy. He ended up drowning the other guy.
Uh-oh.
And, Berman was, seriously, they actually pissed on Berman to fuck with him, because he kept, running around. Anyway.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. It was crazy. Because, but people don't realize how much talent the USFL had. So
wait, you say the USFL, that was the United States Football League. That was a pro league that was
in the spring.
In the spring. So that was in the NFL offseason, right?
Right. Well, no, it was separate. And your boy Trump fucked it up. I don't know why you'd vote for that fucker, Duke. But anyway, I give you credit. Anyway, I'll tell you that story at the end. But anyway, so nobody's doing shit. Then they signed Herschel Walker.
Whoa.
And next thing you know, we got 5,000 people there. And then we'd only talk to ESPN, and all these other sports stations were trying to talk to us and stuff. And
let me ask you, Steve. Let me ask you. So you said that unfortunately the league wasn't able to succeed because of some of the owners, including Donald Trump.
Well, they tried to leverage the NFL, and then once that didn't happen, they just closed shop.
Wow, that's a tough story.
Kind of like a half that said, let's stay in the spring, and then Trump tried to push it, and he just, Trump, him always willing to deal him. But anyway,
yeah.
So I come back home, and I trained this little, I was kind of like ahead of the curve. I always worked out. I joined the gym at 14, but at a place called Mogan Gym. It's 11th and Harvard there. Anyway, I kid you not, I'm sitting in there, fucking around with Rick Steiner and Sting.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
So you must have had the Warrior there too, right?
Oh fuck! I got whacked out. That was the goofiest. I'll tell you a story about him. So anyway, they kept going. You ought to be a wrestler. Because I met all the guys coming through there. I said, yeah, shit. I'm gonna go sell life insurance to dry hump my friend's leg for you know what I mean? And so anyway, I finally go downtown to a show. This fucking place sold out. Rock and Roll Express is there, Ricky and Robert.
Oh, yeah.
Doc and all this shit. Well, anyway, I meet Bill Watts. And he goes, you got any boots? I go, no. I got any tights? And he said, well, why the fuck you tell me you want to be a wrestler? You ain't got shit. And he goes, go get some boots and tights go get a couple of matches around here and come back and see me. Well, I did that. I bought me some, for starter boots. Everybody in the business, they always start out white or black.
Yep.
Computer boots. And so anyway, I had a couple matches come back. And Bill said, we go work out a little bit out on this ranch in Bixby. It's just not that far from in. And see, back then we didn't have Google on shit, so I wasn't grasping, Bill, and I wasn't quite. All I do is a shitload of people, and I can make some money doing this,
And Bill Watts was Bill Watts was the legendary promoter who ran many promotions, including the UWF. He's a larger than life figure in wrestling. So you, as a person just breaking in, he's one of the first people that you are getting work from.
Yeah.
Wow.
Clueless. But Bill was too. So was not. Bill he didn't know it. He met Wahoo in a bar.
Oh, wow.
And Wahoo said, and Bill goes, how the fuck you got all this money? Because, Wahoo played at OU and Bill was at OU. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, raffle. Bill went and saw raffle. And guess what? Wahoo got Bill in. But actually, Bill went down and saw Graham out of Florida.
Yep.
Graham was probably
Graham.
That Florida was one of the best training grounds you could have, except besides Watts probably, and then if you're in tight with WC, out of Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
His crazy as it sounds, there's some like that movie partner set you up while you're off the cliff, you know. But
wow.
But
So you broke into the business meeting guys like Rick Steiner and Sting, then you and Dr. Death, and then you met Bill Watts. He told you to get some gear, get a couple of matches in, then he'd give you work. How do you jump from?
Back and see me. So I did that. And then he goes, okay. He says, "Cut that arena for. I want you to try out." Well, this is still kayfabe shit, right?
Yeah, kayfabe meaning that they don't tell you what it really is. Yeah.
I never, I did in the ring, on the indie shit. A little group around here, great guys. You know what I mean? We all didn't have a fucking clue what we're doing. And on that note, indies today, you still ain't got a fucking clue what you're doing. God, and I swear to God, I said, "Oh, these idiots." And it's not their fault. They mean well.
They're just not trained, right?
Right. Well, I'm just saying it's not their fault because, back in my day, it's like joining the mob. It's fucking tight-knit, smart enough people. And so anyway, I go down there and lace up and shit. So it's like, I don't know, 4 o'clock, before TV and shit. And I go out in the ring and Bill comes out, Scandal Light Bar, Dr. Death. Smell, and they're all just bullshit. And Bill goes, "Hit the ropes." So I run the fucking ropes, and run the fucking ropes, and run the fucking ropes, and kept running the fucking ropes. And I don't know, and they're just bullshitting. So I said, "Bill, that's enough." So I'm not trying to sell nothing, I'm trying to. So I slide out of the ring, and I'm fucking blowing up. I'm like, "What the fuck?" I swear to God, I ran those ropes 10 minutes.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And Bill goes, "You're hired. I'll give me a call, and you'll start that in 2 weeks."
Just like that. Just like that.
Yeah, you're hired.
And folks, this is strange. Here this guy comes off the street. He meets one of the top promoters, some of the top wrestlers. I mean, literally legends in the pro wrestling industry. Many of them in the Hall of Fame right now. And he gets hired after running the ropes for 10 minutes. Now, transition, Steve, to your first year in the business where you get honored with Pro Wrestling Illustrated Rookie of the Year. Talk to me about that.
Oh, God, see, back then again, I literally got someone track me down on a payphone.
Wow.
The arena. We didn't have all that shit.
No cell phones or anything. Yeah, I hear you.
No. You know how many, I swear to God, you get kicked out. You know how many payphones I seen beat up, tore off the wall because somebody's wife found out they got other wives? These guys like beat the shit out of a payphone and, quarters. Ooh, somebody just got caught. I mean, they just jerked them things off the wall, man. And, back then we were banking, man. Listen to Cardinal. We were making money, brother.
I hear that.
We had like money.
I hear that.
Because everything was believable.
And you had guys like Jim Ross, who was the commentator. What were your memories of Jim Ross back then?
God, great. He made for it. Just like Bill finding Sting. Bill finding the Doc, there's Bill finding, bringing in DiBiase, bringing in really his first big star he made, actually, and everybody thought he was big then, but, his first big star, you asked Bill, is Dirty Dick Murdoch.
Oh, yes. Legend.
And, I was in Memphis, and there's this new guy, big guy, too, from Memphis, because Memphis is a bunch of midgets, you know what I'm saying? And, because you'll get a kick out of this, we were pretty tore up with, I was in a locker room, and this is when Texas and Tennessee were doing that gimmick, and this kid goes walking around, I'm like, who the fuck you related to? And everyone starts laughing. It was Jeff Jarrett.
Oh, Jeff Jarrett. Wow.
Yeah. But anyway, I was over in Memphis working, and there's this kid coming in. God, who was sitting there? Anyway, again, I was a green boy for so long because they kind of quit bringing in new talent. So anyway, he's like, did somebody watch my match, kind of critique me? And finally looked at me, and I'm like, I've never really been asked. Like this is, so I'm like, yeah, I'll go watch it. Great bumper, good size, good kid. And I'm talking to him, and he's from Denton, Texas. I go, what are you doing over here? He said, well, that's the first opportunity I get. I said, you need to call Chris Adams. We literally went to a payphone, and I called Chris. Introduced him, and it was Steve Williams. And I swear to God, I go, Steve, you got to change your name. And he looked at me, and they killed over laughing. Why I got to change my name? I said, well, there's already another Steve Williams, Dr. Death. And he goes, oh. I said, just, do the porno thing. Take your first name, last name, and whatever street you're on, that's, you're good. But it was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
You got to be kidding me.
No, straight up.
You helped Stone Cold Steve Austin change his name?
Well, yeah, we had the Steve Williams, it was just like, we already got that. But we literally put him in a car and drove back to Texas and dropped him off with Chris.
Wow. Gentleman Chris Adams, who he credits for training him.
Oh, yeah, Chris was good. Chris cleaned me up business side, and also, because, I'm such a good baby, I would get some with some lower end heels, right?
Yep.
And this happened to me at Chris. Well, I follow along. I want to be good, but I'm used to working high end heels. And they tell you if the spot is, look, tackle drop down, clothesline, take a powder, give me 2 hot dogs, a Coke, take a 5-minute break, go to the bathroom, come back and bring it, eat 1 hot dog. I do that, I swear. I mean, I've done it. I literally had a guy call 2 hot dog spot, and I went and got him 2 hot dogs, came back. Crowd loves it. It's been sport tourism. Yeah.
Let's transition into where you're at today, because you've had such a stellar career, everything from breaking in where you met Dr. Def Steve Williams, you got your first job from Bill Watts, going all the way to helping Stone Cold Steve Austin figure out his name. Now you have your own pro wrestling company by the name of Do It To It Promotions. Can you give us some background on what that is?
It really goes back to, who do I call or talk to in the business, promotional side? You got to think about it. When Bill had problems, he'd call over and talk to Lawler and Jared, and those guys would go down to Von Erich's,
Mm-hmm.
Or Geigel, or, what I'm saying? And, God, I really had nobody to talk to, so we're thinking, well, let's start out with names and then work the card. And so, my first card, we brought in Vader.
Wow.
And
the legendary Vader, wow.
I literally had Vader and the Steiner brothers in there telling me that Andrew Anderson's too stiff.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
I thought it was like a rib, right? Oh, y'all playing with me, the 3 stiffest guys in the business ever stiff. We're talking you guys, these young kids are getting ready. These guys, they quit the business. I mean, they're stiff.
I have a lot of respect for Vader, and we interact online. Shout out to Vader. He has some shows coming up in the not too distant future.
Go see. He's a dinosaur we're going to see.
Yes, sir. Yes. Who do you think is the new talent today? Transitioning into who's the workers today. Who do you see out there that you really respect?
God, any of the Samoans, anybody coming out of, and really, see, here's the thing is, I try to tell these kids, the guys that run New York are guys, I know how they think, I know what they look for, I work with them, I know.
Mm-hmm. When you say the guys that run New York, you're talking about Vince McMahon and the WWE.
Yeah, and I've been cracked on. Why would you say, in my day, everything was out of Madison Square, everybody was in New York, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They might say what I know, out of New York. And, these guys will tell you, anybody can bump. Anybody can handle it. But what you need is those guys that can handle the other 22 hours and 45 minutes to be a pro.
Yeah.
Besides just the ring work. And then, when they say they got the it factor, when to do a big move, here's the hook, and how to walk all 4 sides of the ring, pull the whole crowd in with you. Get the crowd in with you. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's hard to learn, but once you got it, all the good, workers, and some of them kind of got it, and everybody, and here's the best thing that's happened, is that brand split.
Yes. What do you think about that?
Good talent. I think it's great. More work for everybody.
That's a good point.
And I just hope it works out for everybody, because I think everybody, if that's your dream, you can live it if you work hard. That's the holy grail. You can get there, but really study who's behind the curtains. All the guys that are behind the curtains that Vince really trusts and does everything with are old school guys. And why would you be out there saying stupid shit about the old school guys?
Good point.
Guess what you're going to do when you walk into New York? Guess what you're surrounded by? Old school guys.
That's a very good point. How can folks get in touch with you if they want to do some business with Do It To It Promotions, or they just want to get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach you online?
Is Do It To It Promotions. Get on there, or you can just, I got a Facebook page, but there's a ton of Steve Coxes, and shit. So I when I say that, because I'm at that age, God, my kids make fun of me about, internet, that shit. But probably do it. It's just DOIT and do it to and the number 2 it. You got to use the number 2.
The number 2. That's a big deal.
We're actually, and you'll get a kick out of this, and we shot a thing, and we're doing another one to kind of do. We used to laugh, run the road in the 80s and 90s, doing the TV stuff wasn't where the money's at. So we could show on all the cracks that was going on behind the scenes and out on the road,
Yeah.
Anyway, we shot a thing, and there's interest, and we're going to do another thing with showing marine work. We're trying to sell to a major outlet, doing kind of like, instead of like Sons of Anarchy or, Breaking Bad, because I want a real serious take on this, because we weren't fake. The business was real. We don't clown. I don't want to clown the business. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. These are real tough guys. These weren't real tough guys. Listen, Steve, with this series that you're trying to put together, where you want to show pro wrestling in basically a mini series, show what happens behind the scenes, but present it like a TV show. We're going to have you come back on the show at some point to continue to promote that and keep us up to date. We want to let our fans know how your series is doing, because we want to assist you in getting as many eyes on that.
I'll send you a thing there, because the guy, he's a sharp kid. It's neat. I love being around young people that they got big dreams and they got the talent to do it. And he's just made a movie with Marilyn Manson. He's up there, and they're saying, "What's your next project?" And he's trying to describe it. It's kind of funny, people that really know the business or they don't. Right? So they're all getting on Netflix and this.
That's fantastic.
Oh no, we're in the hunt.
Yeah, you sure are. You sure. Hey, but before we let you go, Steve, let me ask you a serious question here about the business.
Right.
And it's something that keeps popping up everywhere. A lot of the old timers, including Vader, have talked about the younger talent doing the flippy moves and doing too much of that stuff. Do you feel that the talent is doing too much of that flipping around in gymnastics and not enough selling, or do you feel that they're all right?
Here's where I'm at with that, is when you got guys and your whole card's doing that, you got a bunch of midgets, literally. And I hate to say that, because I was 240, 245, I could work junior and I could work big, But look what's selling in New York. He's still, Vince is convinced, and I know Triple H is too, is just, you got to have your monsters. And you can't have your whole card doing that. It's tough, because you got to have variety in this marketplace, absolutely, but you can't have too much of any one thing. Steve Cox, we're definitely going to invite you back to the show at some point in the not too distant future. We really appreciate someone who's meant so much to the pro wrestling business to take the time out to address our fans here at the Duke Loves Rasslin Podcast. It really has been an honor and a pleasure. I also am honored to call you a friend. Really appreciate you, Steve, for entertaining me when I was a young guy, and to today just being a person that I can lean on and talk wrestling with and learn something new every time you get a chance to talk. So thank you very much, Steve. All right, man.
Wow, Steve Cox, folks. I mean, was that good or what? Boy, you know what else is good? Barnyard Cheese. That's right, folks, the award-winning food at Barnyard Cheese. Aside from their flavorful soups and artisanal cheeses, they also have sandwiches that'll knock your socks off. I mean, there's this one sandwich, the Wit, that's packed with 2 eggs, roast beef, bacon, cheddar, jalapenos, poblano home fries, cilantro, Malone salt and super schooly salsa, all on a flat Portuguese-style olive oil bread. This thing is so delicious, the Travel Channel named it the best breakfast sandwich. You must head over and try it. Visit Barnyard Cheese Shop at 149 Avenue C between 9th and 10th Streets, New York City. Enjoy.
You're locked in to Duke Loves Rasslin. Join Duke's Rasslin crew on Facebook for more exclusive content. Now, back to the show.
One of the things that I love the most is the interaction that we get from you, the listeners. You've been sending me a lot of fantastic questions. You want to know, Duke, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So, folks, we're going to read some of these questions off, and I'm going to get my man, Iron Man, the Boston bad boy, Mike Pelosi.
What's up, brother?
How you doing?
I'm good. People are starting to think I'm a figment of your imagination. I
know.
Strictly behind the scenes for the most part.
Well, hey, listen, we got to bring you out here. What did you think of that interview with Steve Cox?
Wow, Steve, that was, I guess, the intense. That was good. Steve's funny, very funny, and genuine. I mean, that guy's really. You can tell he's lived a life.
Absolutely.
And I loved his lingo use. I mean, he was talking to you as if you had worked 40 years in the business.
Hey.
And I'm following along. I'm taking notes here, trying to keep up. But really cool stuff, and the names this guy has worked with, stuff from way back, which is more of my memory of DiBiase and all these guys that he was just like, oh yeah, they were coming up. And
he was working with the who's who in the wrestling industry. It's something else, man. Thank you again, Steve Cox. You're fantastic, brother.
Yeah, it's great. We get our questions, and we get 3 good ones.
Okay.
There are no names attached to these questions, so they'll remain anonymous for now. Who did the asking? But they know them. Just
ask the questions, wise guy.
All right. Well, listen, show prep is on the host. So, you got to work it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't call him the Boston bad boy for nothing.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with this stuff.
Oh.
You got to get it together here.
My goodness.
This is people's time we're talking about.
I'm going to bring Steve Cox in here to let you know what's going on.
I'm afraid of it. Don't know. He's going to beat me up. All right, so the first question, has the WWE shot themselves in the foot by pushing Finn Balor to the Raw main event picture? What do you think on that?
That's an excellent question. There's 2 schools of thought here. One school of thought is if you get pushed all the way to the top from the beginning, you can only go down from there.
Fair.
But Finn Balor is a very special talent. I've been following this guy since he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's been considered one of the best wrestlers in the universe. I mean, he's just that great. And he's marketable. Okay, the young fans love this guy. So if the WWE plans on putting the title on him soon, I think this is a great idea.
Why not?
I mean, why not? Exactly.
Why wait?
There's money. There's money to be made with this guy. He's a smaller guy, so the kids can relate to his look. When he is on a pay-per-view, he puts on the face and body paint. He turns into the demon. So you can sell action figures and all sorts of things associated with that. So absolutely, I say thumbs up on pushing Finn Balor. Push him to the moon.
All right. Not uncertain answer on that. You're all in on Finn.
Hey,
Balor.
Listen, man, that's my man right there, Finn. If you're listening, brother, come on to Duke Loves Rasslin. We'd love to talk to you.
This is quite the love fest here.
That's right.
Question number 2: how can TNA continue to capitalize on the bump in viewership since Final Deletion?
They've really just blew it. Okay, they had a huge bump in viewership, and they've gone back down, mainly because they're not doing what I advocate for every single week. Push the knockouts. This TNA has a unique operation there where their female wrestlers are carrying the team. They're fantastic, especially Sienna. She's something else, man. They need to feature the women more. And if they would do that, their ratings would go through the roof. Because they're not doing that, their ratings are where they are. So, hey, Dixie Carter, no disrespect to you, ma'am, but you need to push the women.
That makes sense.
Push the women.
Because it's an angle that not many have pushed in the past.
That's exactly it.
But as we've found out, there is an audience across the board for, whomever and in whatever capacity.
That's it.
So if women is it, push the women.
Push the women.
All right. And this is my favorite question that I picked out. I got to preface this question with, do you believe in aliens?
Well, of course I do. Who doesn't believe?
Well, yeah. If I said, Duke, a saucer has landed in the parking lot of our secret location, and little green men have jumped out, would you immediately think I'm crazy, or would you hear me out?
But listen, Iron Michael Pelosi, we're not the only beings in the universe. The universe is vast. Okay, of course.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm the only being, in this city.
Oh my goodness, this guy. Yes.
And the reason I ask this is because Raw has a new name for the championship, the Universal Championship. What does that mean? The Universal Championship? So run me through the stages here of the belts that we already have.
Oh, boy.
What's the top 3 right now?
Well, you have the United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship.
Right.
Those are on the same level.
Those make sense. I know what the United States is. I understand what intercontinental means, multiple continents. Keep going.
Then you have the World Championship.
Which is that giant spinning sphere that we're all sitting on.
Okay.
Getting older every day. Now, apparently that is not good enough. Because now we've gone to Universal.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
So, has Vince figured out how to contact aliens and bring these guys down, and we're going to put them in the ring? Because that would be, if he did it, I'm all in.
Oh, would you stop?
But if he hasn't done it, can we reevaluate this? It's like the Miss Universe contest. Have you seen The Fifth Element? That was one hot alien. She's going to win in the Miss Universe. It seems unfair we're calling it Universe if we're not inviting these other people.
Unbelievable. Listen, it's pro wrestling, okay?
Yeah.
If anyone in the universe can figure out if there are other people in the universe, it's Vince McMahon, okay? We believe in Vince McMahon. He has enough money to do it, that's for sure, okay?
He'll take the chance.
That's right.
And look.
That's right. And he'll promote the aliens,
That's
too.
right. That's
okay?
right.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, at SummerSlam, we're going to have E.T.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I feel like we'd be hearing about it more if he had actually made contact and was bringing them down. So I hope that's what's happening, and they're just sitting on it for now to really build it up. But
it doesn't matter what they call the championship. We know what it is. It's the top championship on that brand. In this case, we're talking about Raw. Universe, sure, maybe we'll go to the moon and wrestle. So what?
That'd be interesting. You get a lot more throw.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine?
The ring could literally be 40 times the size because you could just work it. I have a great crossover idea. If Vince is listening, the next season of X-Files could be about them figuring out what the Universal Belt is supposed to mean.
Folks, this is what we deal with here.
Right?
You know what I mean?
I'm just being real. I'm just bringing some real.
On Duke Loves Rasslin, you give a guy an opportunity to get on the mic, okay, and ask a couple of questions, and he takes it to his head, folks. Suddenly, he's making fun of the Universal Championship on Raw.
It just seems excessive to me.
Maybe a little bit. But that's what wrestling is all about.
That's true.
All right, we're over the top, brother.
Wait, so far over the top, you're actually now in outer space.
That's right. That's right. Folks, thank you, Iron Mike Pelosi.
Anytime.
That's right. That's right. Folks, we want to thank Steve Cox. Okay, what just a tremendous talent. What a tremendous pleasure it was to speak to him and learn about his career and his thoughts on the current state of professional wrestling. That was great. We also want to thank all of our fantastic friends over at Tavern Road and our friends over there, Middle Kingdom Wrestling, you name it. Come back next week. We have another action-packed show lined up for you with another special guest from the industry, a person who was on the very first Ring of Honor show. I'm not going to say much more. I'm going to leave you guessing. This is Duke for Duke Loves Rasslin saying bye-bye, everybody.